All right. How are you? My name is Sorikawa, and I am a validation and ideation intern with Draft Studios. And the goal of this interview is to basically test out the concept of a product that I'm potentially could be building. Um, what I've seen is in the market that a lot of people tend to struggle with resumes, trying to draft the right resumes and CV letters for the job application process. When it comes down to not only just that, but references, getting, being communicated with jobs, being verifying that you actually worked at where you worked at, and you actually went to school where you work at. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions in relations to resumes and job applications, just to come test the idea. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sienna. I guess I'm the interviewee or the interviewer. I don't
Exactly. All right. So we'll start out with some simple questions. Oftentimes when you're applying for jobs, a lot of the jobs that pay decent amount of money are very heavily on academics, like what school you went to and what did you study. I want to ask you, have you been to a university?
Yes.
Have you graduated from university?
No.
What are you currently studying?
Health sciences at Westchester University.
Okay. And once you graduate from there, what kind of job are you kind of looking for?
I'm kind of looking for a job that goes about in the healthcare field, and something that, like you said, pays decently.
Okay. So, are you currently working?
Yes.
What do you do for a living right now?
For right now, I'm a medical assistant.
Not too bad. I want to ask you, before we get to that, how many jobs have you worked up until this point?
Up until now, probably like 4 or 5.
Right. Did you have to create resumes for each one?
Yes.
Do you remember where those resumes are?
Well, I have one resume. I don't have one resume that I edit, but I had to like create new ones for different jobs. And I do have one on my Google Drive that I
Right.
can edit and change.
Right. So is all those information up to date?
No.
Right. And what about your references? Like, are your references relevant to the positions that you're aiming for?
Yes, they are relevant.
Have you ever been in like, okay, that's true. That's fine. I wanted to ask you, like, when you're going through like the application process, like, and then you send in your resume, do a lot of jobs still ask you to submit the same information that you have on your resume that you submitted to them?
Yes, all the time.
Right. Over and over again?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
does that bother you?
Yes. Like, what was the point of me uploading my resume if you're gonna ask me the same questions?
Right. And then once you get hired, they want to ask you the same information, your name,
Right.
address,
Yep.
regardless, right?
Regardless, yes.
So I wanted to also ask you, like, in the application process, how many times have you created a CV?
I would say 3 or 4.
3 or 4 times, right?
Mhm.
And what did you put on your CV?
What did I put on it?
Yeah.
About myself, what I've worked, about my qualities, what I can bring to the table for the company, why I want to work at that company.
So when you're often filling out your CVs and it's based off like your work experience, but just like in a different kind of format.
Mhm.
Were you aware that like your school activities and things like that can go on your CV?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Or were you also aware that your classes that you took at your university, any university that relates to your job can go on your CV
No,
or your resume?
I knew about the resume one, but I didn't know about the CV one. No.
Like, um, if I were to ask you right now, could you list all of the courses that you took that relates to the job you want to get into? Could you do that?
I don't know if I can list it. I mean, probably like 2 or 3. So I have psychology,
Mhm,
biology,
mhm.
chemistry, microbiology, anything pertaining to science.
And do you know the exact descriptions of those courses and what you did right now?
No,
So
not
like
at all.
if you were to apply for a new job, you would have to look up
Mhm.
the courses, find a
Yeah, I gotta look
description.
up the courses. I gotta look up the syllabus that they had
Mhm.
to find out what the class entailed, what I was learning there, and all of that.
Right. And let's say you then decide to apply for another job. You have to redo that whole process again.
Yeah,
Is that tedious to you?
very much so.
Does it make like applying to job just extremely stressful?
Yes.
Like if we were to build a product that just basically tracks all of your school courses, right? And it
Hmm.
takes it tracks all your work history, and then
Hmm.
and let's say you were to say, oh, you want to apply to a new job, and then you click the button, it just extracts exactly what you need and creates a resume ready for you.
Hmm.
And
That
then
would be nice.
right, and then once you submit your resume, the system automatically fills in every question that asks for your name, your job, your description, when you started, when you left, why you left, automatically fills it
Okay.
in, right?
So in short, it would just be filling out the application for me,
Yeah, generally the beginning process, right?
right?
So I mean, like with something like that, would that cut back on a lot of the stress that comes with applying to jobs for you?
It would, but I have a question in regards to like it tracking my work history. How would it go about doing that?
So in a general sense, it would be like, you know how when you're filling out a resume, right?
Hmm.
And every time you edit your resume, sometimes you might like, oh, I don't need this job, so I don't put it there. But like if you were to input the job description, it kind of saves it as
Oh, okay.
so it's like a LinkedIn kind of thing. I worked here, I did
Okay.
this, right? And then
Gotcha.
yeah, and you just click resume for X, Y, and Z.
Okay. So let me just understand. I'm gonna put in the information that
Right.
I wanted to fill out the application for me, and it's just gonna fill out that application for me without
Exactly.
me updating a CV or putting in a resume, and then they're asking the same questions again.
Exactly. And then
Gotcha.
it can also be incorporated with like the universities you go to. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you were to take a class, because I know like when you sign up for a class, it has the class description, all that stuff right there ready for you.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Yeah.
automatically extract that information for the courses you take, keep a
Mm-hmm.
log of that. And if you were, let's say you were to apply, let's say you were to apply for a science or a different type of science job, it would say, oh,
Okay.
you took these science courses, this applies here. Build a resume, says you work here, here, and here, this applies for this, and then
Mm-hmm.
send it in to that job offer place or
And now for that will like because every course has a different description and
right.
every college has a different description on how they describe that coursework.
Right.
Would it be a generalized
No,
description?
no. So what it
Okay.
would, so generally like what it could do would be like it would incorporate with the school, or
Mm-hmm.
you can just copy and paste what the description is directly given to you. Because when you sign up for a course, they have to give you a description of the course.
Yeah.
You can just copy it and then paste it into the software, and it will just be like, oh, okay, she took
Okay.
math 101, et cetera, et cetera.
And then it's just going to remember that information and fill it out wherever it asks that question.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Right there. And then I mean, what do you think about that idea in general?
I think it will cut back on like the application process of filling in the same information over and over again.
Right.
That part, but there's still the issue of the interviewer asking me the same questions again.
Yeah.
But
So
that's something that can't be solved, I guess.
wait, but that's also one of the things I wanted to ask you. Like,
Okay.
what if it generally had a profile for you and it kind of follows some of the activities that you did? Because I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
time when you go through the interview process, they basically don't know anything about you and they wind up asking you the same thing that's already written on your resume. But
Right.
they generally ask you questions like, hey, tell us about yourself. But like, what if it was like, let's say you was in UPenn, right? And you did some activities like you volunteer here and there, but it's on that profile and it's all linked to your resume. Your resume has like a school information, experiences, internships, and then it has like a link or something that says, this is your personal life. It shows like, photos or things of what you do in your personal life that relates to you.
Mhm.
So it kind of
Okay.
cuts back on that kind of question, like, what do you do for a living? You're like, oh, my resume already shows that, or my profile already shows that.
Okay. So then I do have a question in regards to that. There is a, I guess, either a site or an app called ZipRecruiter that
Mhm,
kind of does that as well, but doesn't help with the application process like you're saying.
mhm.
It kind of puts your resume at the top if you put something or keywords. So with your project, would that help like get us noticed
Yeah,
for like a interviewer to call us?
yeah. So generally speaking, it'll be like a combination of what LinkedIn is, where you have your personal profile.
Hmm.
But it's more expansive on that concept. It's all built in the resume application process because ZipRecruiter it doesn't necessarily give you all the information in your resume. It submits your resume
Right.
and that's just it. But you then once the job hits you up, you still have to submit that information again anyway.
Hmm.
It gets rid of that process and then it sends the recruiter to go look at your personalized page. So you're not just words on the paper. It might have photos for what you did here and there. And what it does, it tracks your school and your activities. For example, one of the features I was thinking of is like if you work at a place, certain places, not all of them, they do job evaluations, right?
Hmm.
Like, let's say you work at a place for three. I think mine is like at my shit. Give me a second. I think mine is like after like 6 months, I have to do an evaluation with my manager. They tell me the good things
Yeah.
I do, bad things I do. What if
Hmm.
the application, the software is both, for the consumer and businesses that whenever you do have an evaluation that is good, it automatically gets added to your resume. They say, oh, when she worked at X, Y, and Z, this manager said that she was a hardworking, da 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 da, and that gets automatically updated and it follows you without you having to go back in and update your resume personally yourself.
Hmm. I mean, that sounds good, but wouldn't your resume at that point just be really long?
Mm, true. One of the ideas I had was to put it as optional. You know,
Okay.
it's like so it can be like a snapshot, like your resume is like name, experiences, et cetera. And then like it has a
Right.
section that says if you want to get to know the person more, you can expand it. So
Okay.
yeah. So
I
that's
mean, yeah, because most of the resumes that I have, it's like you have to do it less than one page
yeah,
or 1 or 2 pages.
right.
So if we're adding all this stuff, then it's gonna make it more than one page.
Right.
So
Yeah. So it's essentially like a profile that's get created for you. And then
okay.
it's up to date, especially when it comes down to references, because like if you were to try to get a reference from a previous job, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know they still work there?
Right.
How do you know they still have the same number, or you know what I mean? And as a lot of times on the other side, when you're a recruiter, how do you know someone's not lying? Oh yeah, this is Joanna, we work together, but Joanna is your auntie who never worked at that job with you before in her life. But
I
of
see.
course, she's going to lie about it, right? How do you validate that the person reference actually truly worked with them?
Okay. I mean, I guess that would help the employer side, but I don't know if that would help the employee side.
Well, the one of the ideas was like it will stay updated with the company in a general sense. So like it's two sides, basically speaking,
Hmm.
of how the product, what I'm thinking will work. It's the consumer side and the business side. So
Hmm.
on your side, we talk about all the features. On their side, it's like they will input the information. Like if you got hired at the place, they'll say, Sienna works here. Basically,
Okay.
in their system says, because the HR department already does it. So the software would just say she works here. And if you do leave, the software will automatically update and say Sienna left. But it works on both ends. So it will, like, let's say you start a new job. I'm gonna say you work at Foot Locker, right? Foot
Hmm.
Locker. You're so on your profile, it'll automatically update, say Sienna started working at Foot Locker on this date. Because a lot of times we have to remember when we started. I'm like, what the hell? I don't remember that.
Right.
So let's say Sienna started on this date and it was verified by this manager, and the manager's information pops up, right?
Hmm.
Their name, their business email, whatever the case is. And then if you leave, it will say Sienna left on this day, and it will say
Mhm.
reason why, and it'll say verified by manager. So, so in a different business, a different company will go back and look and say, okay, it's been verified that you did work there. You started on this day, you left on this day, and these are some of your evaluations of what goods and the bad you did at this job. But you
Mhm.
don't, you as a person doesn't have to go back in and try to input that information all day long. If they input it for you by listing your name, it gets inputted into their system. I mean, would you be interested in something like that?
I mean, yeah, I would be interested in the part where it fills out the application for me.
Hmm.
What you're saying exactly, like on the tracking side, I do understand it is like tedious sometimes to think about when you worked or how long you worked there. But I feel like the employer is not really looking for like when you started, when you ended. They're just looking to see your experience and how
Right.
long you worked there.
But
So them like tracking, it's just kind of weird with the tracking, if you
okay,
understand what I'm saying.
yeah, I do. Would you be interested in like if it was to say like, oh, she got promoted for this reason?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our last question is I'm gonna give you the opportunity for you to fully express yourself. Like, what are all of the what are some of the challenges that you come across that you know you really struggle with? Or what are some of the things that you like or don't like about the application process and resumes?
So like you said, for the resume part, it's creating a resume for each job that you want to start or you want to get into. For
Hmm.
the application part, it's filling in what you filled in on the resume, and they're asking you the same questions again, even though you have already uploaded a resume for the HR person to read,
Hmm.
which just makes you think like, is this person looking at what I just entered, or is this computer system, does it read what I just entered? Because this is basically the same information. Why are you asking me it again?
Right.
Which just kind of wastes time. And if time is money, then why am I wasting it? Why can't I just be hired already and start the
Right.
job, or have you ask me the same questions again so I can answer the same questions again? That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for participating in the my questionnaire and stuff like that. I truly appreciate it.
No problem.